A serene day at the park takes an unexpected turn when a white woman confronts a black teenager, demanding he leave. Little does she know his mother, a formidable lawyer, is about to arrive and transform the confrontation into an unforgettable lesson. The swings swayed gently as Jordan propelled his younger sister higher, her laughter echoing a sweet tune amidst families enjoying the sunny afternoon at Crescent Park. It was a picture-perfect day, clear blue skies, the scent of freshly cut grass, and the rhythmic scuff of sneakers as kids played tag nearby. Jordan, a tall 16-year-old with a quiet, warm smile, had always been the steadfast guardian of his siblings. His 7-year-old brother Elijah was engrossed in constructing an impressive sandcastle, meticulously shaping the grains, while their toddler sister Layla reveled in the sheer delight of the swings. Jordan kept a vigilant watch, ensuring everyone was safe and content. Across the park, a middle-aged woman walked her fluffy white terrier. Sunglasses rested on her head and a scowl gradually creased her face. Her name was irrelevant, her demeanor spoke volumes. She surveyed the playground like a hawk, her gaze fixating on Jordan as if something about the scene unsettled her. Jordan didn't notice her at first. He was too busy laughing at Layla's joyful attempts to touch the sky with her toes. Elijah called out, eager to display his castle's newly built moat, and Jordan gave him a thumbs up. Life felt wonderfully simple in that moment. Then the woman took a step forward, her heels clicking sharply on the pavement. The sound pierced the cheerful park noise, making Jordan look up. Something about her rigid posture and deliberate stride triggered an internal alarm. He quickly dismissed it, redirecting his attention to Layla. After all, they were just kids playing in a park. What could possibly go wrong? But the woman didn't stop. Her voice cut through the air, loud enough to draw attention. "Excuse me, young man," she called out, her tone icy. "Can I help you with something?" Jordan turned, confused. "Me?" "Yes, you," she said, stepping closer, her dog yipping impatiently on its leash. "What are you doing here?" Jordan's brows furrowed. Just playing with my siblings." Her eyes narrowed as if his words defied logic. "Do you even live around here? I've never seen you before." Jordan blinked, his confusion morphing into discomfort. "Yeah, we live nearby," he said cautiously, gesturing vaguely toward the houses beyond the park. "We come here all the time." She crossed her arms, her lips tightening into a thin line. "Well, I'm not sure you should be here. This is a family park. We don't need troublemakers hanging around." Her words landed like a physical blow. Trouble? Jordan wasn't sure he'd heard correctly. He glanced at Layla, who had stopped swinging, her innocent face clouded with confusion. Elijah looked up from his castle, his small hands frozen mid-pat. Jordan took a deep breath. "Ma'am, we're just here to play. That's all." But her expression didn't soften. Instead, she took another step closer, her voice growing louder. "I think you need to leave now." A few heads turned in their direction, the park's chatter subtly dimming as people noticed the exchange. Jordan's heart pounded. He wanted to speak, but the weight of the moment made words elusive. Then in the distance he saw a familiar car pulling into the parking lot. Relief washed over him as his mom Monica stepped out, her commanding presence immediately noticeable. She scanned the park, her sharp eyes locking onto the scene unfolding near the swings. Monica didn't rush, she didn't need to. Her stride was purposeful, her head held high. Jordan could see it in her face. She had observed everything and she was coming. Jordan held his ground, his hands gripping the swing chains for stability. The woman's voice had sharpened, drawing the attention of nearby parents and children. A group of teens playing basketball stopped mid-game, their ball rolling to a quiet halt. Eyes darted toward the confrontation. "I'm not asking again," the woman said, her voice carrying a thinly veiled threat. Her dog barked in agreement, yapping at Jordan as if he were an intruder. "This isn't your kind of place." Jordan's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice steady. "We're just playing. We're not bothering anyone." "Oh, you are," she snapped back, her hands now firmly on her hips. "We have rules here. People like you." She stopped herself mid-sentence, realizing she'd spoken too plainly. Her cheeks flushed, but the stubborn tilt of her chin remained. "Look, I'm just saying it's best you leave before things get complicated." Jordan's chest constricted. The coded language was all too familiar, though he'd never experienced it this overtly. He glanced at Elijah, who stood frozen by his sandcastle, his tiny fingers clenched into fists. Layla, still on the swing, stared wide-eyed at the woman, her innocent face etched with confusion. "I don't understand," Jordan said, his voice faltering but resolute. "What did we do wrong?" Before the woman could respond, a voice cut through the tension like a blade, clear and commanding. "Excuse me, is there a problem here?" All eyes shifted to Monica, who now stood a few paces away. Her presence was magnetic, her tone carrying an unspoken authority. She wore a fitted blazer over jeans, her laptop bag slung casually over one shoulder. But it wasn't her attire that drew attention. It was the way she carried herself, tall, confident, and utterly unshaken. The woman blinked, startled. "Oh, are you there?" "Their mother," Monica finished, stepping closer. Her eyes briefly flicked to Jordan, offering silent reassurance before settling on the woman. "And you are?" The woman stammered, caught off guard. I'm a concerned parent. I was just making sure everything was okay here." Monica tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "Concerned about what, exactly?" The woman opened her mouth, then closed it, her face turning a deeper shade of red. "Well, I've never seen them here before and I just thought." "You thought what?" Monica interrupted, her voice calm but unyielding. "That they didn't belong here." The air seemed to thicken with tension. A few bystanders stepped closer, their curiosity outweighing their hesitation. Whispers began to ripple through the small crowd. The woman straightened her shoulders, attempting to regain her composure. "Look, I'm just looking out for the community. We've had issues before and Issues?" Monica repeated, raising an eyebrow. "What kind of issues?" The woman faltered, her confidence slipping. With outsiders." Monica's expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened. "Outsiders," she said slowly, as if tasting the word. "So, because my son and his siblings don't look like you, they must be outsiders?" "I didn't say that," the woman snapped, her voice rising defensively. "You're twisting my words." Monica took another step forward, her voice steady and deliberate. "Am I? Because that's exactly what it sounds like to me. And to everyone else here." The murmurs grew louder. A man with a stroller stepped closer, nodding subtly in agreement. A group of teens exchanged knowing glances. The woman looked around, realizing the tide was turning against her. "I think you've made a mistake," Monica said, her tone softening just enough to be disarming. "And I'm giving you a chance to explain yourself." The woman opened her mouth, but no words came out. She glanced at the crowd, then back at Monica, her confidence crumbling under the weight of so many eyes. Monica didn't press further, not yet. She simply stood there, her presence alone demanding accountability. The silence was deafening, each second stretching longer than the last. Then Monica spoke again, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who knew exactly how to handle moments like this. "I suggest we clear this up before assumptions lead us somewhere we don't want to go." The crowd, now noticeably larger, stood in intense anticipation. Monica's words hung in the air, their weight pressing down on the woman whose earlier bravado had shriveled into visible discomfort. Jordan could feel the shift. His mom had taken control of the moment without raising her voice, a skill he admired and often marveled at. Monica turned briefly to Jordan, her gaze warm but purposeful. "Are you and your siblings okay?" she asked, her voice softening. "We're fine, Mom." His tone was steady, but there was an undercurrent of relief in his words. "Good," Monica said, then turned her attention back to the woman. Her expression was calm, almost disarmingly so, but her eyes told a different story. They held a sharpness, a clarity that conveyed she wasn't here for small talk. The woman fidgeted with her dog's leash, avoiding direct eye contact. "I didn't mean anything by it," she muttered, her earlier confidence now replaced with a defensive whine. "I was just trying to make sure everything was okay." Monica's brow arched slightly. "By demanding my children leave the park? By calling them outsiders?" The woman stammered, I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it then?" Monica pressed, her tone still measured. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you singled out my children based on assumptions you made about them." The murmurs among the onlookers grew louder, a mixture of agreement and indignation. Someone in the crowd called out, "Yeah, let her explain." Others nodded, their expressions a mix of curiosity and quiet judgment. The woman's face reddened further. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but no coherent words came. The silence that followed was deafening, each second amplifying the weight of Monica's presence. Monica stepped closer, her voice dropping just enough to make the moment feel intimate despite the growing audience. "Let me tell you something about my son," she said, her tone shifting slightly. "Jordan is an honor roll student. He volunteers at the community center every weekend. He's the kind of young man who looks out for his little brother and sister, who makes sure they're safe and happy." Jordan felt his chest swell with a mix of pride and embarrassment. He hadn't expected his mom to share that, but in the context of this moment, it felt powerful. Monica continued, her gaze steady on the woman. "So, when you look at him, what exactly do you see?" "Because I see a young man who deserves to enjoy this park just as much as anyone else here." The woman looked like she wanted the ground to swallow her whole. Her eyes darted toward the crowd, which had grown increasingly unsympathetic. A few parents whispered to each other, their disapproval clear. Even the teens by the basketball court, who initially watched with casual curiosity, now seemed engaged, their folded arms and narrowed eyes a quiet show of solidarity. The woman began, but Monica didn't let her finish. "Here's the thing," Monica said, her voice firm but not unkind. "When you approach someone with accusations and assumptions, you're not protecting a community. You're dividing it. And whether you realize it or not, those divisions hurt everyone, including you." The woman's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Her dog yipped again, tugging on its leash as if it too wanted to escape the situation. Monica stood her ground, giving the woman a moment to process her words. "You know," Monica added, her tone softening just a fraction, "it's never too late to reflect and do better. This could be one of those moments if you choose to let it be." The crowd murmured in agreement, and for a brief moment the tension seemed to lift. Monica had extended an olive branch, and now the ball was in the woman's court. The woman stood frozen, her face a patchwork of emotions. Embarrassment, frustration, and something that looked a lot like shame. The crowd watched her, waiting to see how she'd respond. Monica's words had hit their mark, but whether they'd take root was another matter entirely. The silence stretched until the woman finally managed to speak, her voice shaky but defensive. "I wasn't trying to cause trouble," she said, though the conviction in her tone had evaporated. "I just thought with everything you hear on the news these days, you can't be too careful." Monica tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "Careful about what? Kids playing on swings? A teenager building a sandcastle with his siblings? Or does your caution only apply when it comes to families like mine?" The woman flinched, her lips pressing into a thin line. "That's not what I meant," she muttered, but the words sounded hollow even to her. "Then what did you mean?" Monica asked, her voice steady. "Because the message you're sending to my children, to everyone watching, is that they don't belong. And that's a message rooted in fear and ignorance, not in facts or fairness." A ripple of murmurs moved through the crowd. A few onlookers nodded, their faces serious. Others exchanged glances, their discomfort evident. The weight of Monica's words seemed to hang in the air, undeniable and inescapable. Monica took a step back, her eyes sweeping over the growing group of spectators. "This moment isn't just about my family," she said, addressing the crowd now. "It's about all of us. We have a choice: to let fear and prejudice dictate how we treat each other, or to build a community where everyone feels safe and welcome." Her words carried a quiet power, the kind that didn't need to shout to be heard. A man holding a stroller nodded, his face softening. One of the teens by the basketball court muttered, "She's got a point," to his friend, who grunted in agreement. Monica turned back to the woman, her tone gentle but firm. "I'm not asking you to be perfect," she said. "I'm asking you to think about the impact of your actions. To ask yourself why you felt the need to approach my son instead of simply letting him and his siblings enjoy their afternoon." The woman's shoulders sagged slightly. For the first time she looked at Jordan not with suspicion, but with something closer to recognition. Her dog whined, pulling on its leash as if sensing the shift in the atmosphere. I'm sorry," she said at last, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to upset anyone." Jordan stared at her, his expression a mix of surprise and cautious relief. Elijah, who had been quietly clutching his bucket of sand, finally relaxed his grip. Layla, still on the swing, looked to Monica with wide, trusting eyes. Monica nodded, acknowledging the apology without letting it completely absolve the moment. Apologies are a good start, she said. But they're not the end. It's what we do after we apologize that matters. The woman nodded slowly, her cheeks still flushed. She turned and walked away, her dog trotting at her side. The crowd began to disperse, but the energy lingered, an unspoken agreement that something important had just taken place. As Monica turned back to her children, the man with the stroller approached her. "Thank you," he said simply, "for saying what needed to be said." Monica gave him a small, gracious smile. Sometimes it's the quiet moments that teach us the most. Jordan stepped closer to his mom, his voice low but steady. "Thanks for coming when you did." Monica placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch both grounding and comforting. "You handled yourself well," she said. "But I'll always have your back." The sun had begun to dip lower in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue over the park. The tension that had gripped the area was gone, replaced by a quiet hum of activity as families resumed their afternoon routines. Jordan stood next to his mom, watching Elijah return to his sandcastle and Layla kick her legs on the swing again, their earlier unease melting away. Monica knelt down next to Elijah, admiring his work. "That's a pretty impressive moat you've got there," she said with a smile. Elijah grinned, his face lighting up. "It's going to be the biggest castle ever, Mom." "I believe it," Monica replied. She ruffled his hair gently, then stood, turning back to Jordan. "You okay?" Jordan nodded, though the weight of what had happened lingered in his eyes. "Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time, but it's the first time someone came at me like that." Monica's expression softened, her heart aching at the quiet resignation in her son's voice. "I know," she said. "And it's not fair. But what you did, standing your ground, staying calm, that's strength, Jordan, and it matters." Jordan shrugged. "I just didn't want to make it worse." "You didn't," Monica assured him. "And what you did gave me the chance to step in and make her and everyone else think. Change doesn't happen overnight, but moments like this, they plant seeds." Jordan considered her words, then nodded slowly. "I guess." Monica placed a hand on his shoulder, looking him squarely in the eye. "You're going to face moments like this again. I wish you didn't have to, but you will. And when you do, remember that your worth isn't up for debate. Not with her, not with anyone." Her words seemed to resonate, and Jordan stood a little taller. "Thanks, Mom." As they gathered their things to leave, a woman approached hesitantly. She was younger than the first woman, her toddler perched on her hip. "I just wanted to say," she began, her voice tinged with uncertainty, "I'm sorry you had to go through that. What you said back there, it really opened my eyes. I'll do better to make sure my own son grows up treating everyone with respect." Monica smiled warmly. "Thank you for saying that. It means a lot." The woman nodded and walked away, leaving Monica with a sense of cautious optimism. She knew that real change took more than one afternoon, but even a single ripple could start a wave. As they walked back to the car, Jordan glanced back at the park. The swings moved lazily in the breeze, and Elijah's sandcastle stood proudly, its moat glinting in the sunlight. It wasn't just a park anymore. It was a reminder of resilience, of standing tall in the face of prejudice, and of the power of one voice to spark a conversation. Monica opened the car door for her kids, her gaze lingering on the playground for a moment longer. "You know," she said as she slid into the driver's seat, "this world can be a tough place, but it's people like you who make it better." Jordan smiled, a quiet confidence beginning to bloom in his expression. "Guess I learned from the best." The car pulled out of the lot, leaving Crescent Park behind, but the lessons from that day stayed with them, woven into their hearts as a reminder of who they were and who they aspired to be.